In this video, we're going to be talking about Pro controllers. Pro controllers are essentially standard controllers that have more advanced features built into them that might be helpful for someone who just needs some minor modifications to access their controls more efficiently. For example, some controls have different buttons present on the face, top, or the back of the controller, and these can be mapped to any button on the standard controller. Some of them will also allow you to adjust the joystick tension, making the joystick easier or harder to move. Some controllers allow you to remove the different components and switch them around to customize the setup to meet your individual needs. Then some of them also have motion controls built into them, and these motion controls can be mapped to different controls within the game. We're going to be talking through a variety of different advanced features of different Pro controllers and a variety of different Pro controllers that have different features that might be helpful for different individuals based off of their needs and what they're having difficulty accessing on the standard controller. Now I'm going to talk about the Baiteng Pangu controller. This is a neat controller that has a lot of different features. For example, as you can see, all the buttons and joysticks are out of the controller, and you can place them any way that you would like on the controller to really customize the setup. For example, if you wanted joysticks on the same side of the controller, you can place the joysticks on the same side and place the button and D-pad on the opposite side. And to remove things, you can just press in the buttons and the modules pop right out. And you can orient the buttons and joysticks any way that you'd like on the controller to really customize the setup to meet your individual needs. There's also different joystick and button modules you can purchase as well to get different buttons and joysticks to really customize the controller. And I'll show those in the next part of the video. You can also get rear buttons on the controller, and there's different rear button modules. This is a 2-button module, but you can also get a 4-button module. And this can slide into the back of the controller, allowing you to access 2 additional buttons on the back of the controller. And here I have the motors on the controller. You can actually remove the motors on the controller and add them back in. So if you want to lighten the controller a little bit and make it a little bit more lightweight, you can remove the motors out, or you can also switch the motors out for different motor modules as well. So this really allows you to really customize the controller and adjust a lot of the different settings. You can also adjust a lot of settings in the software side as well using the program for this controller. And you can remap buttons, set button macros, and adjust other helpful settings on the controller. In the next part of the video, I'm going to show some of the additional joystick and button modules you can get to further customize this controller, and then show you the software and show you how you can remap buttons and also program in button macros using the software for this controller. The Baiteng Pangu software has a lot of really nice features that allow you to customize a lot of different settings. One nice feature of the software is that if you want to pop out any components and reconfigure them, it'll actually sense when you pop out the components. When you pop them back in, it will recognize them within the software. You can also remap the software of the controller as well. For example, you can remap the different buttons. So, for example, if I wanted to remap the left bumper to the right bumper, I can do that here. So now it'll activate the right bumper when I press the left bumper on the controller. However, I can also make it so one button will activate 2 or 3 buttons simultaneously as well. So by doing this, I can make it so when I press the left bumper, it'll press both the right and the left bumper at the same time. You can also remap the back buttons as well and do the same thing. So if I want the back button to activate both the A and the B button simultaneously, I can map this on the controller. You can also program it so it'll activate a button macro as well. So macros can string together different controls to make certain actions easier for someone who might have difficulty accessing certain controls in games. So if I want to set up a macro where I can do a different combination of buttons, I can press the different button combinations I want and then click save. And that'll save that macro into that button. So when I press that button, it'll activate that macro in the sequence I press the button when I program the macro on the controller. You can also program different things into the joystick as well. So if I want to remap the joystick, I can remap the left joystick to the right joystick or vice versa. And I can also map the joysticks to buttons on the controller. So if I want to map the joystick so it'll actually activate buttons, I can do that as well using the software. So by remapping this, now the joystick, when I press down on it, it'll activate the A button. When I move right, it'll activate the B button. When I move left, it'll activate the X button. and when I move up, it'll activate the Y button. So now the joystick is activating the different buttons on the controller. You can also adjust joystick sensitivity, adjust motion controls, adjust the lights on the controller, and a lot of other features as well. So it's really, really customizable both physically and from the software side to really customize it for individual gamers. In addition, it's compatible with both the PC and Nintendo Switch directly. However, it can be utilized on other consoles as well, utilizing an adapter from Brook. So this will allow you to utilize it on both Xbox and PlayStation as well if you utilize one of the Brook adapters. Next, I'm going to show some of the other additional modifications you can add to the controller that are available to purchase, such as different joystick and button modifications that can be added. Bytong also sells other different buttons, joysticks, and other modifications that can be added to their controller. Like I said, you can have the whole controller be all buttons or the whole controller be all joysticks if you choose as well. For button options, they have the typical buttons that come with the controller, but they also have conductive and optical buttons that have different pressabilities compared to those of the standard controller. There's also different joysticks you can get as well, such as TMR joysticks and carbon film joysticks that have more precision for movement. There's different D-pad modules as well. There's different rear buttons you can add as well, such as a 4-button back paddle, the 2-button back paddle that comes with the controller, and then also expanded shoulder buttons, and these can be added for additional buttons at the top of the controller near the trigger buttons on the controller. Therefore, there's a lot of different options that are available that you can add to this controller to really customize the setup for an individual gamer. This is the LeadJoy Xeno Plus controller. The LeadJoy Xeno Plus controller is a pro controller that has TMR joysticks, nice clickable buttons, and remappable buttons, 4 of them on the back. They can be remapped to any button or combination of buttons on the standard controller. However, one really cool feature about the LeadJoy Xeno Plus controller is that you can buy this device called the LeadJoy Magic Key, and this pairs to the controller. And this is a motion sensor that allows you to program different motions for different controls within the game. This allows you to attach this device to your head, your arm, your leg, and program different motion controls, such as moving your wrist up or rolling it over, to different controls within the game to use motion controls for game controls as well. And I'll show how to program this within the LeadJoy software and also show some examples of this in gameplay. In addition, you can also set motion controls on the controller itself to activate different controls in the game, such as moving the right joystick or activating different buttons, and I'll show that as well using the LeadJoy software. So next I'm going to show the software for LeadJoy on how to remap the different buttons on the controller and also how to use the motion sensor to control different controls within the game using motion controls. The LeadJoy software allows you to modify a lot of different settings on the controller and also map motion controls for the Magic Key device. In the LeadJoy software, you can remap the buttons on the controller. So you can, for example, remap the A button so it can be a different button like the B button, or you can even have it be a combination of buttons as well. So when you press one button, it'll activate multiple buttons simultaneously. In addition, you can also remap the rear buttons, so the R4, L4, R5, and L5 are the 4 rear buttons on the controller. And once again, you can map these to a single button or a combination of buttons. And you can also remap the buttons to different joystick movements as well. If you wanted to create a macro, such as a string of commands, you can do this here as well. So if you wanted to create a string of different controls on the controller, so it can string together different controls that might be difficult for a gamer to perform, you can do this by pressing in a button as well. You can also adjust joystick sensitivity settings on the controller or joystick settings, adjust trigger settings, vibration settings. You can also map the gyroscope, so there's a built-in motion controller on this controller, and you can utilize the motion controls to activate controls such as the right joystick. So by moving the motion controller or moving the controller, you can actually move and activate the right joystick in the game. Or you can utilize this to control the left joystick, or even utilize this to control different buttons in the game, such as rolling the controller left will activate the A button, and rolling the controller right will activate the B button. This can allow you to use the motion controls to activate different controls in the game as well. Some gamers who can only access the controller with one hand or have difficulty accessing one of the joysticks might find utilizing the gyroscope to activate the right joystick helpful, as then they can use their thumb to activate the left joystick, then using the motion controls to activate the right joystick instead, allowing them to access both joysticks using one hand. You can also in the software map the magic key. So this is that little motion controller device that I demonstrated earlier in the video. And this allows you to map the different controls. So if you have the device on the top of someone's head, you can map the controls for rolling or moving your head left to a specific control. So if I wanted this to be the A button, I can map it. Pitching would be moving your head up and down, and I can map this control as well to a specific button. And then yaw is turning your head left and right as well. I find that rolling and pitching seem to be more sensitive, and it picks these commands easier than the yaw command. However, you can trial with these and adjust the sensitivity to see what best meets an individual user's needs. In the video, I'm going to show a custom setup where I'm utilizing my hand and moving my hand up and rolling it to the right to activate the different controls in a game on the Nintendo Switch. This controller, by default, is compatible with both PC and Nintendo Switch. However, it can be utilized on other consoles as well, such as the Xbox and PlayStation 5, utilizing one of the Brook adapters. So those adapters will allow you to utilize it as well on the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox consoles. This is the FlyDigi Vader 5S controller. This controller is directly compatible with Xbox, but can be utilized in some of the other consoles as well using the Brook adapters. The Xbox version is wired, however there is a PC version of this controller that is also wireless as well. This controller has a lot of really nice features. There's a lot of remappable buttons on this controller. It's one of the few Pro controllers that has remappable buttons on the surface. So there's 2 remappable buttons below the A, B, X, and Y buttons, and these can be remapped to any standard button on the controller. In addition, there's 2 buttons near the top, near the triggers, that you can also remap, and 2 more buttons on the back. So there's 6 buttons in total you can remap on the controller. In addition, the joysticks, you can adjust the tension. So by twisting this knob on the joystick, you can adjust the tension quite a bit on the joystick to make it easier or harder to move. This can be helpful for someone who needs either less resistance or more resistance on the joystick to access them more efficiently. You can use the software for this controller to remap the different buttons and adjust joystick sensitivity settings. And this controller can be very helpful for someone who just needs some buttons in different locations to access the controls more efficiently, or needs a little bit more assistance accessing the joysticks, allowing them to reduce or increase the amount of tension on the joysticks themselves. Using the FlyDigi software, you can remap the different remappable buttons on the controller. You can remap the C and Z buttons, the 2 rear buttons, and the 2 buttons on the top of the controller to any button you would like on the controller. To remap them, you just click on them, and then click whatever button you would like to remap them to. You can also remap the joysticks and other buttons on the controller. You can also adjust joystick settings as well. So if you want to adjust joystick settings, you can do this in this software. You can adjust the response curve on the joysticks. You can also adjust the joystick sensitivity and other settings as well. You can adjust trigger settings as well, such as how much motion is required to press the triggers in fully. You can adjust the vibration on the controller to make it have less or more vibration, and the vibration in the individual triggers as well. And adjust the lighting on the controller to different brightness and effects. This allows you to have some minor modifications to the software of the controller to really customize it for the user. This is the Razer Wolverine controller. The Razer Wolverine controller is directly compatible with the Xbox console. However, they also sell a version called the Razer Raiju, which is compatible with the PS5 console and has similar features to the Razer Wolverine. The Razer Wolverine has a lot of remappable buttons. There's 2 on the top near the triggers, and then 4 on the back of the controller, and these can be remapped to any button on the controller. In addition, you can also change the amount of movement that is required to press in the triggers. If you want them to be accessed instantaneously, you can click the switches, and now they can just be clicked in, and this doesn't require quite as much movement to push in the triggers compared to those on a standard controller. Once again, this controller can be helpful for someone who just needs some buttons in different locations, such as the top of the controller or the back of the controller, to access the controls more efficiently when they're playing. This is the Victrix Pro BFG controller. The Victrix Pro BFG controller has versions that are compatible with the PlayStation consoles and the Xbox consoles as well. This controller has a lot of really nice features. It has remappable buttons on the back of the controller, and these can be remapped to any button on the face or top of the controller. You can change the amount of movement required to push in the triggers. So if you want them to require less movement to push in, you can click the buttons on the back, and then it will require less movement to push in the triggers. You can also change out the different joysticks for different sizes and shapes, as well as the D-pad as well. You can also change the orientation of the joystick on the left side of the controller and flip it around, so the D-pad is located on the inside and the joystick is located on the outside. They also have different modules you can switch out as well if you want to use it for more of a fighting game where you don't need the right joystick and you want to access the right bumper and trigger more efficiently on the face of the controller. Therefore, this controller has a lot of nice features that allows someone to create different minor modifications to access the controls more efficiently.